Adapting video games to the big screen has a notorious bad track record. But how come that something that has captured millions of people doesn't translate well when it's being adapted to a different media? Let's find out. Adaptation is something that has been done since the birth of cinema, and that's still a major way to make movies and TV series even today. But there's always something that gets lost in translation when adapting from another media. For example, when you adapt from a book, you often lose the internal thoughts that a character has, which can be hard to show on screen without a tedious voiceover or being too on the nose.
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise. What?
And it's also hard to cut down on a 300-page book and turn it into a 2-hour movie. It's inevitable that some things have to be removed and not make it to the screen. This is a problem even for the most successful adaptations out there. Just take a look at the Lord of the Rings trilogy, that had to leave out many events and characters to fit it within the 10 or so hours of screen time. A video game can have 10 to 40 or up to hundreds of hours of interesting things happening within the world that the player experiences. Things that keep developing the plot as time goes on, which can be hard to capture within a 2-hour span on the big screen. Adapting a video game into a movie might even be harder in some cases than adapting into a TV series due to the limited screen time. Even if you plan for sequels further on, there's not a guarantee that those will be made. It all depends on the success of the first adaptation. TV series have an easier time introducing you to characters and events at a more steady pace. They can knowingly drag out things before the audience is shown the truth, which makes it easier for many works that contain a lot of information or characters to be adapted in a better way. Here, a whole season could be planting for bigger things to come, to let the audience get to know the characters better and get a better feeling for the world they now are in. This build-up is more equal to that in a game. So, adapting to a TV series should be the solution. Not quite. One thing that video games have that both movies and TV series lack is immersiveness. You are in charge of the story, and it's you who achieve the hard tasks and overcome the obstacles that are presented for you, giving you a sense of accomplishment. And now, with an adaptation, you become a viewer instead of an active participant. This feeling is hard to translate from a video game to a movie or TV series. And not everyone's experience of a certain video game is the same as another one. There can be so many routes to take, so many choices to deal with, that impacts how you experience the story. When it gets adapted to another media, someone else's vision or experience will be what shows up on screen, and that might not necessarily match the experience that you had. Your take on the world and the character that you got to know might not be the one that gets represented in the end. And that is true for all the people who once played the game and spent hours upon hours with these characters. The writer's task is then to try to capture the essence of what so many people have come to enjoy, and that is not a small task. And in the end, it will be one vision from another person's perspective, not yours. But the core story and theme should still be the same, and should be enough for a good writer to use as building blocks in order to create a good adaptation. But not all video games have much of a story, and what happens within a video game can be you just solving a bunch of puzzles or collecting coins. Nothing that really progresses the story or makes your character grow. But still, we do see these adaptations pop up anyway, because the franchise is already huge and it's a household name. These stories need more flesh added to them before they can function as a movie or TV series, which risks them distancing themselves from the spirit of the game. Especially if the genre the movie ends up being doesn't match the genre of the game. Luckily, many of the games have over the years had so many sequels that the world they take place in just grows and grows, which makes it easier for writers to take from the real work and apply it to the adaptation, compared to just having one game to work with. But, ironically, two of the pitfalls with adapting video games are that you either stick with the source material too much or don't stick with it enough. If you try to just copy the game and add it to the screen, it might just end up in a big mess that doesn't make any sense. It can also feel just plain weird. A lot of games are meant to be a little over the top, which might not translate well into real action movies, but would rather fit as an animation instead. There, it's easier to play around with things that just don't feel realistic, or where the characters are more alien to us, without it feeling strange at all. Many TV series that have been adapted from video games have succeeded in this, thanks to it being an animation instead of real action. If you don't stick with the source material at all, you then risk alienating the fan base that you otherwise would get for free, namely the ones already in love with the game. A lot of the issues in the past have been that the writers are not familiar with the game, they just have the premise and work from that, which makes the characters unrecognizable for the ones who are familiar with the game. And when you push away the core fans, you will eventually end up with a movie that no one understands. And this only brings more fuel to the fire that video games can't be adapted to the big screen in a proper way.
It's a shame he didn't make it.
Adapting from video games is still relatively new, and if we look back to the cradle of video game adaptations, a lot has happened since, which allowed games to grow in size, impact, and popularity. The craft for video games has improved immensely, and so has the story building that comes with it. If we look to the future, there are more than 50 movies and TV series that are in development that are all based on video games. It seems that this will only increase, especially if the ones that are released now and in the near future get momentum. There are so many games that have such a rich story that it's a shame that they only can be experienced as a game. Some stories are just meant to be seen on the big screen or made into a TV series. There's so much undiscovered in the world worth telling. Many games touch on a personal level and should be shared with the rest of the world. And there's so many people out there that just can't grasp what video games can give us, what stories and worlds they hold. This is why we need more adaptations from games to show the world what it's all about.
Hell, it's about time.
Thank you for watching. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments below. Oh, and one more thing. Uberbold ruining an entire franchise.